It has worked out great. And I mean, like I said, I love the dedication to tag team wrestling. So I believe I've even discussed this in the past. There aren't many people who are wrestling fans that can't relate to having a brother, a cousin, a sister, even that you grow up and you're like, man, I want to be tag team champions with my best friend, with my brother, with my cousin, with anybody. Like everybody has that. People are a lot less selfish when they're younger and they grow up and they dream of these things. Why do you think that it's the case so much more in AEW than other places? Because we keep a roster page and there are like 20 tag teams right now, and all of them are good. Like, why do you think that is such an investment in AEW as opposed to other places? And why do you think maybe other places haven't jumped on board?
I think maybe because right now, like the year 2020, you're looking at guys who grew up watching the Hart Foundation and the Rockers and the Rock and Roll and the Midnights and Edge and Christian and the Dudleys and the Hardy Boys and all these other like amazing legendary tag teams. And we watched them as children, so that kind of I think got instilled in us like, man, tag team wrestling is cool. And now we're all old enough where we followed those dreams and we've trained to be professional wrestlers and we've achieved the goal. And now everybody's just kind of converging all at once because for the most part, we're all around the same age. We've been watching about the same span. And I think that's just a byproduct of all of us growing up watching the same era, loving the same things, and just kind of following that. That's probably the most I would say.
Yeah. Even as a kid, man, I mean, I've loved professional wrestling for as long as I can remember. But as a kid, I really did love tag team wrestling. I don't know if it's because for a while, professional wrestling was my only friend, my best friend. But man, I loved tag team wrestling. I loved guys who looked alike, who dressed alike. Let's put it like that. Like the gear was like, obviously I loved, Arn and Tully and Midnight Express and the Hart Foundation, but also I loved guys like Marcus Bagwell and the Patriot. And I loved guys even what were they? They were called Men at Work or something like that. It was just WCW
Yeah.
Saturday Night.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I loved that. Like I loved the dedication they had, and you hit the nail on the head. And I wish, and I don't say this disparagingly, but I wish a lot of wrestlers who are in tag teams would understand that as a tag team wrestler and a tag team partner, that is your brother, that is your best friend. So, like for example, I don't want to go too far in the weeds, but when it's time to get that hot tag, man, you don't want to come in and do a bunch of flips and rolls and things like that. You've been beating the shit out of my best friend for 5 minutes. I'm going to come in and throw fists and I'm going to beat the shit out of you. And that's the psychology of tag team wrestling, the simple psychology of tag team wrestling, but you can make so much around that. But going back to your original question of why it hasn't been prevalent in other places besides AEW, I think for so long tag team wrestling has been bastardized. I think that uh, it's one of those things that's been set on the back burner for a very long time because one certain individual isn't a huge fan of it for whatever reason, and then the fans just don't believe in it right now. We've got myself, Cash, Omega and Hangman, Private Party, and the Young Bucks. We've got to,
Ortiz,
all these guys. We've got to re-educate Usos, New Day. We've got to re-educate these fans on what tag team wrestling is, how important it is, how much money can be drawn with tag team wrestling, and why it's such a vital part of the business that we all love. And I think we're on the right path to do that.
Yeah, like we've touched on it before in a couple of recent interviews. A lot of the times, like tag team wrestling became like two singles matches where it was just, I'll do this with this guy, you do this with this guy. And it wasn't tag team wrestling. It was just four guys doing some really cool stuff and not working together like they should. Like when we work together, we try to make it a thing where I can't finish what I'm doing without him there. If it's like a three-legged table, it doesn't stand on its own. Like it needs the support of the fourth leg. And if I start something, and especially there's a blind tag and some misdirection and this and that, and it finishes with a double team, that's the beauty of tag team wrestling because I couldn't do that on my own. And people like somewhere along the way it got lost, but I think the teams we just named are doing a hell of a job in bringing that back and making people realize what tag team wrestling used to be and what it could be and what it will be.
And Sean, I'll pat us on the back too real quick. Before 2016, before 2016, you didn't see too many tag matches. It was, like you said, it was two. Even if you were a tag team, it was one guy doing something with the opponent, the tag out, and the other two guys would do whatever. And that was before 2016. 2016 comes along, 5'10" North Carolina boys get to work with American Alpha, and we show what tag team wrestling can be. And we made it. We became a cohesive unit. They became a cohesive unit, and we actually had an actual tag team wrestling match. And from there on, I believe in the mainstream, the structure of tag team wrestling kind of changed a bit.